The unexpected event. Earth had never seen anything like it. The massive alien ship hung in orbit, suspended above the planet like an indomitable giant. It shimmered in the sun, its surface gleaming with a strange liquid metal sheen. From the ground, the ship appeared almost like a star itself, a presence too massive to fathom. Some thought it was a warning, others a promise, but one thing was certain. Humanity's place in the cosmos was about to change forever. In the heart of a gleaming reception hall aboard the ship, the atmosphere was tense with anticipation. Diplomatic representatives from every corner of the galaxy filled the room. Some resembled humans, others were made of crystalline forms or gaseous entities, each more bizarre than the last. As Earth's junior diplomatic assistant, Tom Miller had little business among such a prestigious crowd, but here he was. He hadn't been supposed to attend, but a sudden outbreak of food poisoning had wiped out half of the delegation, and now he found himself in the middle of history. If anything, Tom figured he would be invisible, tucked away in the corner, far from any attention. Despite his lowly rank, he stood with his hands stuffed in his pockets, scanning the room with his smartphone. The hall was a masterpiece, a blend of technology and elegance. Giant crystal arches rose overhead, and lights floated by themselves, casting the room in an ethereal glow. The ship itself seemed to pulse with an energy that Tom could feel in his bones, but that wasn't the most unsettling part of the experience. No, that honor went to the delegation of aliens, each one more unfamiliar and frightening than the last. Some were floating clouds of gas, others resembled talking stones, and a few had multiple limbs that moved with unnerving precision. Tom wasn't paying much attention to the ongoing conversation at the center of the hall, though. Earth's head diplomat, Ambassador Green, was engaged in a discussion with High Commander Reed of the Galactic Council's security forces. From what Tom could gather, the conversation was mostly about the ship's formidable energy shields. As a junior diplomat, Tom didn't have to worry much about shield technology or intergalactic defense. His job was simple: bring coffee, fetch the right snacks, and look important when required. As he fiddled with his phone, trying to distract himself, something strange started happening. The signal in the room seemed to become erratic. It wasn't the usual faint hum of intergalactic communication. This was different. Tom adjusted his signal booster app, a little tool he created to get a better signal on long diplomatic flights. The alien ship, it seemed, was interfering with his connection. He didn't think much of it at first, but as he tweaked the frequency, everything around him started to shift. The room went dark for a split second. The flickering lights grew erratic, and then something even stranger. The enormous energy shield visible through the massive windows shimmered like a mirage. The walls, once firm and steady, rippled as if a powerful wave had passed through them. The energy barrier protecting the entire ship was beginning to fluctuate. Every alien in the room turned their attention to Tom, their gazes burning into him with a mix of confusion and curiosity. High Commander Reed's expression changed instantly, his face a deep shade of purple. "What did you do?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. He glared at Tom as if the young human had just triggered some intergalactic disaster. Tom, taken aback, looked down at his phone, his heart pounding in his chest. I was just trying to get a better signal," Tom stammered, staring at his device. "I think my app is interfering with your shield's harmonics. You know, like when you put your phone too close to an old speaker and it makes that weird buzzing sound." Ambassador Green rushed over, eyes wide, panic creeping into his voice. "Tom, what are you doing? What have you done?" But Tom couldn't answer right away. The room was in chaos now. The alien diplomats were yelling at one another, pointing at the fluctuating shield and scribbling furiously on their datapads. A few of the more humanoid aliens even clutched their chests, likely from the strain of the unexpected disturbance. Tom looked around, confused and mildly embarrassed. He didn't know what he had done, but it was clear that whatever it was It was important. The High Commander's purple face twisted in disbelief. Impossible. Our shields are based on complex quantum matrices. Primitive radio waves cannot disrupt them. There must be some mistake. Tom, unsure of what to do, shrugged. Want me to try it again? He asked, his voice unsure but oddly confident. Before anyone could stop him, he fiddled with the settings on his app and adjusted the frequency once more. This time, the entire shield grid became visible through the windows, shimmering like the northern lights. The energy field flickered violently before stabilizing again. It was as if Tom had accidentally triggered a cosmic disturbance with a simple app. The room was now in complete disarray, and the aliens were no longer speaking. They were shouting, gesturing wildly, and some appeared close to panicking. It was the kind of chaos that a human could never have imagined, a crisis sparked by something as simple as a phone. Ambassador Green, still standing near Tom, took a deep breath and turned toward the stunned Galactic Council. As you can see, he began, his voice calm despite the pandemonium around him. Humanity is full of surprises. Perhaps we should discuss our terms for joining the Council over drinks. Tom couldn't help but chuckle under his breath, a nervous laugh more than anything. He had no idea how to fix this, and frankly, he wasn't sure he even wanted to. But with the room still buzzing with alien chatter and confusion, Tom spotted a server passing by with a tray of what appeared to be glasses filled with some kind of glowing blue liquid. Desperate for a distraction, he called out to the server. "Hey, could I have one of those?" he asked, his voice more confident now. He turned to the nearest alien, a wide-eyed scientist who looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a walking crystal. "Hold my beer," Tom said, handing the scientist his phone. "I want to try something else with your communication system. I think I can boost the efficiency by about 300% if I can link it to my music streaming app." The alien scientist looked at Tom as though he'd just proposed a new method of intergalactic travel, a mix of awe and fear in their expression. But before anyone could respond, Tom took the blue drink and raised it in the air, as though toasting the chaos he'd just unleashed. The words "hold my beer" seemed like a strange declaration for the moment, but somehow it fit perfectly. Humanity had just turned the tables in an intergalactic diplomatic event, and now it seemed that the galaxy was facing a brand new threat. What would come next was anyone's guess, but for now, humanity was firmly in the driver's seat of its own fate, and Tom Miller, the unlikely hero, had just made his mark on the universe. The challenge begins. The Galactic Council's emergency chamber was unlike anything Tom had ever seen. It was massive, with high vaulted ceilings that stretched far beyond what his eyes could comprehend. The walls were made of an alien metal that pulsed faintly, as though the very structure was alive. A massive amphitheater-like seating arrangement filled the room, with hundreds of alien delegates seated in rows, some humanoid, others completely incomprehensible in form. The air was thick with tension, the kind that only occurs when civilizations are at the brink of a decision that could change the fate of the galaxy. At the center of the chamber stood Admiral Stone, a towering figure whose rocky, obsidian-like skin crackled with an energy that made his very presence feel like a thunderstorm waiting to erupt. His eyes, a sharp and fiery red, were locked onto the Earth delegation with a gaze that could melt steel. The Admiral had been quiet until now, but everyone knew that silence from such a figure was a precursor to an eruption of anger. "This is madness," Admiral Stone growled, his deep voice echoing throughout the chamber. His fist slammed onto the podium, and the sound reverberated like a shockwave. "You humans have no regard for the dangers of your actions. You have destabilized our most advanced shield technology with nothing more than a primitive mobile application." His eyes narrowed as he turned his attention to the Earth delegation, which now included Ambassador Green and Tom Miller, still trying to blend in as much as possible. Tom could feel the pressure of the moment, the weight of the entire galaxy's judgment focused on him. He swallowed hard. The room was filled with alien diplomats from countless species, each more unsettling than the last. There were beings made of swirling energy, creatures with multiple limbs, and others who seemed to communicate entirely through telepathy. Yet despite their vastly different forms, they all shared a single unwavering focus: humanity's strange and potentially dangerous ability to interfere with technology they didn't understand. Admiral Stone's gaze fell on Tom, his fingers clenched around the podium as though he were about to crush it. "I cannot stress enough how dangerous this is," he continued, his voice booming with authority. "Your species has shown an utter disregard for the boundaries of our technology. You tampered with something you had no business touching, and now we must decide how to handle this." The council chamber fell into a heavy silence, broken only by the quiet hum of alien technology and the soft rustling of robes and garments. Each alien species had their own unique way of expressing emotions, but one thing was clear: the atmosphere was charged with fear, uncertainty, and a simmering anger toward the humans in the room. Ambassador Green stood tall, unfazed by the heated accusations. He had seen the worst the universe had to offer in his years of diplomatic service, and this was no different. With the calmest voice he could muster, he addressed the Admiral's concerns. "Admiral Stone, with all due respect, what you are calling dangerous is, in fact, a display of our potential. The fact that Tom here was able to disrupt your advanced shields with nothing more than a smartphone app suggests that there is room for improvement in your technology. Perhaps your shields aren't as flawless as you believe them to be." A murmur rippled through the council seats, some alien diplomats nodding thoughtfully while others scowled, visibly upset at the suggestion that their flawless technology could stand for improvement. A tall, silver-skinned alien rose from their seat, their eyes glinting with what Tom could only interpret as both pride and irritation. "Fresh perspectives." The silver-skinned being scoffed. "You still use combustion engines, and your entertainment is based on flat screens. You haven't even colonized your own solar system. How can you possibly understand the complexities of our technology?" The alien's voice was cold and dismissive, as though humanity's achievements were laughable in comparison to the grandeur of the Galactic Council's collective knowledge. Tom, who had been silently absorbing everything, felt a sudden surge of determination. He might not have been a seasoned diplomat, but he knew something they didn't. Humans were good at figuring things out, especially when they didn't know what they were doing. And right now, he had an opportunity to show the galaxy exactly what human ingenuity could accomplish. "Actually," Tom interjected, his voice surprisingly steady, "I think I could help with that colonization thing. If your ships use the same principles as your shields, I've got an idea. You see, I've been thinking about using the basic concept of microwave power converters to make your engines more efficient. If I had access to your technology, I think we could make some real breakthroughs." The entire chamber fell deathly silent. Even Admiral Stone, whose anger had been simmering just moments before, seemed stunned by the audacity of the suggestion. The silver-skinned alien who had been mocking humanity's lack of advanced technology was now staring at Tom, his jaw slack in disbelief. "You want to enhance our engines using microwaves?" the silver-skinned alien repeated, as though trying to comprehend the sheer absurdity of the idea. "Your species doesn't even have a fully functional warp drive. How do you plan on making our engines more efficient with microwave technology?" Tom met the alien's gaze, a slight grin tugging at his lips. "I didn't say it would be easy, but that's the fun part, right? It's about finding solutions where no one else has thought to look." Before the debate could escalate further, Captain Mark Rogers of the Human Engineering Corps stepped forward. Rogers had been quietly observing the events unfold, sipping from what appeared to be a simple earth coffee mug. With a grin, he set his mug down on the podium and addressed the room. "Sounds like a challenge to me," Rogers said, his voice booming with confidence. "Tell you what, give us 72 hours with access to both our technology and yours. If we can't improve at least 3 of your perfect systems by then, we'll happily follow your rules about innovation." A ripple of laughter swept through the council members, though it was clear that some of them found the idea preposterous. The silver-skinned alien looked as though he might burst out in laughter, but Admiral Stone remained stoic, clearly contemplating the human proposal. "We accept these terms," the Admiral finally said, his voice still tinged with anger, but also with a grudging respect. "But there are conditions. You will work under our supervision, using only the equipment available in your diplomatic vessel and what we choose to provide you." Rogers gave a sly smile and nodded. "Perfect. We'll show you how humans get things done." As the human delegation began unloading their equipment, the alien scientists watched in horror as they saw what was being carried into the chamber. It wasn't sophisticated alien machinery or advanced technological marvels. No, it was boxes filled with spare computer parts, outdated radio equipment, and most alarmingly, a box labeled random stuff that might be useful. One of the alien scientists whispered to Admiral Stone, their voice filled with genuine concern. "Should we stop them? They appear to be gathering junk." Admiral Stone watched the humans set up their equipment with a mixture of fascination and dread. "No," he said slowly, almost with a sense of finality. "Let them try. This will prove once and for all that their kind is too reckless to belong to the Galactic Council." With that, the countdown began. Tom and his team had 72 hours to prove the impossible was possible, to show the galaxy that humanity could innovate, adapt, and rise to any challenge, no matter how insurmountable it seemed. And so, the challenge began. The human touch. The countdown was ticking, and the weight of the galaxy's eyes rested heavily on Earth's shoulders. The stakes had never been higher. A challenge had been issued, and humanity was expected to prove that its primitive, inferior technology could enhance the sophisticated, millennia-old systems of the Galactic Council. With only 72 hours to complete the task, time was both a luxury and a cruel taskmaster. The humans had been provided with a small, sterile lab, furnished with the equipment from their own vessel, and whatever the Council decided to make available. It wasn't much. The alien technology in the room seemed light years ahead of anything Earth had developed. Yet Tom Miller and his team were determined to prove that human ingenuity could outshine even the most advanced systems the galaxy had to offer. Tom found himself in the thick of things, standing beside Captain Mark Rogers, who was busily reviewing blueprints, schematics, and what looked like a mess of wires, tools, and various makeshift devices. Rogers was calm, even in the face of such overwhelming odds. Tom, on the other hand, couldn't help but feel the pressure. He wasn't an engineer, just a junior diplomat. But somehow, he had become the unexpected hero. He had unintentionally triggered the chaos in the Council's reception hall. And now it was up to him and his team to prove that humans were more than just an unpredictable species. They were capable of greatness. "We've got this, Tom," Captain Rogers said, his graying hair now slightly disheveled, his hands moving with an almost mechanical precision. "This is where humanity shines. We may not have your fancy shields or hyper-advanced chips, but we have something better: creativity. The ability to think outside the box. To adapt." Tom nodded, trying to shake off his nervousness. "Yeah, but what if we can't figure it out? What if our ideas are too unconventional? Then we'll just make it work," Rogers said, flashing him a confident grin. "We've got 72 hours. That's more than enough time to show them what humans can do." The clock on the wall ticked steadily, the minutes slipping away. The room was filled with the buzz of various tools and alien equipment being unpacked and analyzed. Every now and then, alien scientists from the Council would enter the room, observing with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. The humans had brought in their own equipment, and the alien researchers watched in disbelief as the humans set up seemingly mundane devices, a few old computer parts, several boxes of circuit boards, and what appeared to be a vintage microwave power converter. The Council had given them access to alien technologies, but it was clear that they were under strict supervision. The scientists huddled together, whispering in their native languages, pointing at the human team's seemingly disorganized mess. None of them could understand why Earth's people were using such outdated, rudimentary tools. Some of them even felt insulted by the sight of humans working with equipment they considered primitive. One of the alien scientists, a towering being with translucent skin, entered the room and took a long look at the microwave power converter that Rogers had placed on the table. His gaze flicked from the converter to the human engineers, his lips curling in a mixture of amusement and contempt. "This?" the scientist asked, his voice dripping with incredulity. "You intend to enhance our engines using this antiquated device. It's a relic from your ancient past." Rogers turned to face the alien with a smile. "This relic, as you call it, is going to revolutionize your power converters. Trust me, we're not as backwards as you think." The alien scientist snorted in disbelief but said nothing further. He turned and left the room, likely to report back to the council with his findings. Tom couldn't help but feel the sting of that look. He wasn't an engineer, but he'd been around enough to understand that this was a moment of judgment, not just for the humans, but for him personally. "Don't worry about him, Tom," Rogers said, noticing the look on Tom's face. "The council is going to see what we can do. We just have to trust the process." And so, the humans got to work. With each passing hour, the challenge grew more intense. The team, though small, worked tirelessly, often through the night, huddled around tables littered with schematics and tools. They were guided by a simple yet profound belief that with enough creativity and perseverance, no problem was insurmountable. The task at hand wasn't just to improve one piece of alien technology. It was about understanding the very nature of how the Galactic Council's systems worked. The shields that had been disrupted earlier by Tom's phone weren't just force fields. They were the product of centuries of research, based on quantum matrices that harnessed the power of exotic particles. The propulsion systems were powered by highly advanced energy fields that humans couldn't even begin to fathom. Yet, Tom and his team were determined to make it work. One of the first hurdles they encountered was understanding how the alien propulsion systems interacted with the various energy fields in their ships. Human engineers were used to systems that relied on combustion or electrical energy, not the exotic matter and quantum particles that powered alien spacecraft. Tom, though no expert, had a theory. It involved using microwave radiation to enhance the communication between different energy fields, creating a more stable and efficient power flow. It was a long shot, but it was the kind of wild idea that humans thrived on. For the next few hours, Tom worked alongside Captain Rogers, using his knowledge of basic electromagnetic theory to make adjustments to the alien propulsion system. The rest of the team helped where they could, some working with the ship's internal computers to sync their modifications with the alien technology, others running diagnostics and performing test after test. At one point, the tension was so thick that it felt as though the entire room was holding its breath. The alien scientists hovered near the door, watching every move, waiting for the inevitable failure. But Tom, with his mind focused entirely on the task, blocked them out. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he inputted new algorithms and adjusted power levels, trying to create a more harmonious energy flow between the various systems. It was when they connected the old microwave converter to the shield's energy matrix that things started to change. The device began to hum with life, its small, seemingly insignificant components now resonating with the alien shields in a way no one had expected. The room went silent, and for a moment, it seemed as though time itself had stopped. "Is it working?" one of the human engineers asked, her voice trembling with anticipation. Tom took a deep breath and checked the diagnostics. "It's working. I think we've got it." Suddenly, the shield grid visible outside the lab window flickered, and for the first time since the challenge had begun, the energy shield stabilized and pulsed with a new rhythm. It wasn't perfect, but it was far more efficient than before. The alien scientists watching from the door seemed stunned, their mouths agape. Even Admiral Stone, who had been the most vocal opponent to humanity's presence, turned his gaze toward the human team in shock. "This can't be," he muttered, his voice low and disbelieving. How did you? Captain Rogers, grinning like a proud father, leaned back in his chair and stretched his arms. It's simple. We just think differently. We take risks. We challenge ourselves. And when we don't know the answers, we make them up as we go along. Welcome to the future, Admiral. The council chamber outside was buzzing with activity, but inside the human engineering lab, everything had gone silent for a moment. The impossible had been achieved. With nothing more than a microwave power converter and a bit of human ingenuity, the team had begun to reshape the future of space travel. It wasn't just about enhancing shields or engines anymore. It was about proving that humanity, despite its technological limitations, had something the galaxy had never seen before: the ability to adapt, innovate, and rise to any challenge. And Tom Miller, the junior diplomat who had started this whole fiasco, was at the heart of it. As he looked at the flickering shield and the smiling faces of his fellow engineers, he realized something profound. This was only the beginning.